Will you stop playing that tiny piano?
Sorry.
SpongeBob SquarePants is a global phenomenon. We can all agree on that. Since 1999, it has been amusing and bemusing children and adults all over the world, with 14 seasons and 3 feature-length films. Now, we get accused of sometimes making outlandish claims on this channel, but I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say that SpongeBob SquarePants is the most successful television show about a sea sponge in the history of mankind. It's easy to forget that the show is based around the real world. You know, with all that weirdness that goes on in every episode. So we wanted to make this video to cover some of the main characters in this bizarre, yet brilliant TV show, and spend some time getting to know their real-world cousins.
Well, good luck with that.
How true to life is SpongeBob SquarePants? This isn't a question that I, as a grown-up, ever thought I would be asking, especially not to broadcast it to the entire world on YouTube. But here we are. It's not quite as stupid a question as it sounds, though. Okay, there are no burger restaurants under the sea, and I don't think an octopus can play the clarinet, but at its core, there is some actual knowledge of life under the sea in SpongeBob SquarePants. Steven Hillenburg, the late genius creator of SpongeBob, was not just an animator. He was a marine science educator, and he loved everything to do with the ocean. He taught marine biology at the Orange County Marine Institute before he turned his attention to animation, eventually getting a job working on Rocko's Modern Life at Nickelodeon. That love for everything nautical never left him, though. He had written a picture book called The Intertidal Zone as a tool to help teach his students about tide pool animals. And while at Nickelodeon, he went back to this to develop the characters that he had created. This would be the basis for SpongeBob SquarePants, the TV show. So, he used a lot of his knowledge of the aquatic world in the show. So much of it is based on fact that it has then been, shall we say, slightly distorted to create the wacky world that has entertained us for decades. So, let's now take a few of these characters individually and see just how lifelike they are. And you'll see that some have ventured further from reality than others. SpongeBob SquarePants. Where else could we start other than with the titular character and one of the most recognizable cartoon characters in the world? SpongeBob SquarePants. SpongeBob is a sea sponge, which is a multicellular organism that lives on the bottom of the sea. Although not in pineapples. It must be said, they're odd little things. They have no nervous system, no circulatory system, no tissue, and no organs. Ugh. They're made of a jelly-like substance, and they just kind of float there, gently obtaining what they need to survive from water as it passes through them. You know, until it's time to start their shift at the Krusty Krab. Here's a fun fact for you. It's thought that sponges were the first species to branch off the evolutionary tree from the last common ancestor of all animals, which means they're a sister group of all other animals. So, SpongeBob is part of an entirely different evolutionary group than every other living thing, which is probably how he remains so positive. Patrick Star. SpongeBob's best buddy in the entire world is Patrick Star, who is a starfish. Now, a starfish is one of those animals that we learn about when we are quite little, and then we just take for granted for the rest of our lives. When you think about it though, it's a really odd creature. It has 5 arms, for crying out loud. Not even an even number. Come on! On the show, Patrick is dumb, which is pretty accurate as starfish don't actually have a brain. They are also slow-moving and eat pretty much anything they come into contact with. So, they pretty much nailed those traits with Patrick. However, Patrick is also lovable, and I'm not sure we could stretch that far for starfish. One species has been included in the list of the world's 100 worst invasive alien species, as they are a voracious predator of coral. So, is there something more sinister lurking behind Patrick's eyes? No, he's lovely. The invasive species specialist group that made that list can just back off. Squidward tentacles. SpongeBob lives next door to Squidward Tentacles, a giant Pacific octopus. You may know that octopuses, is that right? Octopuses? Octopus. It doesn't sound right. Anyway, they are known as the most intelligent of all invertebrates, which is impressive. They probably know the right way to pluralize the word octopus. The life of an octopus is fraught with danger. They have so many predators, such as seals, otters, sharks, whales, and of course, humans. Maybe that's why he's always in such a grisly mood. They are cold-blooded, of course. Squidward does, deep down, have a great deal of affection for SpongeBob. He's a complex character, and in real life, octopuses, still doesn't sound right, are thought to be capable of having personalities, so they are a bit more complex than most other creatures down there. Bless them.
Means get lost, Squidward.
Mr. Krabs. Next up, we have everyone's favorite fast food shop owner. Yeah, you heard me, Ronald McDonald. You heard exactly what I said. Mr. Krabs. Mr. Krabs is a crab. Just in case you hadn't figured that out. Like Mr. Krabs, the real crabs are very resourceful and adaptable. They live in all of the world's oceans, as well as being able to survive on land and in fresh water. Another link to Mr. Krabs is that the real-life crabs are known to work together to provide food. So his restaurant is just his way of putting food on the table. However, I must stress that it is very rare for a crab to be father to a whale. So we're not quite sure how Mr. Krabs ended up with a whale as a daughter. In fact, that's never explained on the show either. We just accept it, like the existence of starfish. Oh, and one last thing. Mr. Krabs' first name is Eugene. I like that. Sheldon and Karen Plankton. Right across the road from the Krusty Krab, you'll find the Chum Bucket, owned by the Planktons. The wannabe evil genius Plankton suffers from Napoleon complex, sometimes known as small man syndrome, which basically means he's very angry because he's very short. In real life, this is half right. Plankton are very small. The smallest are undetectable by the human eye, whereas the biggest, pleasingly named Mega Plankton, can grow up to 20 centimeters. Where the reality differs, though, is that plankton are not angry. They're not really anything. Most types of plankton just drift wherever the water carries them. They also are not capable of creating a waterproof supercomputer that they then name Karen and marry. That's not something that actually happens. Mrs. Puff. Mrs. Puff is SpongeBob's teacher at boating school, and as her name suggests, she's a pufferfish. Another one of those strange creatures that you have to do a quick mental check to determine whether they are actually real or whether they are just from cartoons.
Oh, SpongeBob!
It's all a bit weird under the sea, isn't it? Anyway, pufferfish are real. They can be incredibly poisonous, but they are not the same as blowfish, which is what Homer was poisoned with in that very early Simpsons episode. And they can puff up by filling their stomachs with water. Mrs. Puff does this when she's scared or injured. In real life, pufferfish do this to warn off predators. You don't want to eat me. I'm a big pointy ball. Fun fact, David Attenborough described one species of pufferfish as the greatest artist of the animal kingdom. This refers to the nests that the males create in sand, made up of complex geometric designs. We're not sure if Mr. Krabs did something similar in order to woo Miss Puff. Gary, the snail, Aw, sweet Gary. SpongeBob's pet sea snail. We love Gary on this channel. He's great. But how close is Gary to sea snails in real life? Well, for one, unfortunately, sea snails don't meow like a cat, which is a shame, we admit. However, on the show, Gary is often seen as a level-headed voice of reason who helps SpongeBob solve his problems. And sea snails are one of the more intelligent creatures in the ocean and are even quite robust when it comes to stress, which is probably why Gary remains so calm when there is nothing but chaos all around him. Frank. Okay, we'll finish up our list of SpongeBob characters in real life with a bit of a cheat because Frank isn't a main character. He is just in the background, but his real life counterpart is just so remarkable that we had to include him. Frank, and even though he isn't a main character, we're certain that you'll recognize him, is ripped. He's a bodybuilder fish that's often in the background of episodes. It's a funny little concept, right? A muscle-bound fish? Well, let me introduce you to a real-life muscle-bound fish. The batfish. These intense-looking creatures aren't great swimmers, so they spend their time crawling around the seafloor. They don't need a gym. Every moment of their lives is a workout. So, as a result, they look like they would post a lot of pictures of themselves on Instagram. So, there we have it. The weird and wonderful world of SpongeBob SquarePants is actually more like the real world under the sea than you may have first imagined. Due to the incredible imagination of Steven Hillenburg, kids all around the world have been gaining little bits of knowledge about the aquatic world without even realizing it. Actually, before we go, I should clear one thing up because we did leave out one of the main characters, Sandy Cheeks. As far as I'm aware, there is no record of any squirrel donning an air-filled glass dome in order to continue their scientific research under the sea. Squirrels live on land. Now, don't say you never learn anything from our videos. We hope you have enjoyed watching. Please like and subscribe for more content about your favorite comedy shows.